Ever feel like you're struggling to get all the different parts of your application to talk to each other smoothly? I mean, what if there was a way to just streamline that whole data flow and make everything click together? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to explore, the powerful world of AWS messaging services. So here's what we've got on top. We're going to start with the big picture of what messaging on AWS even means. Then we'll take a tour of 4 really key services: SQS for queuing, SNS for broadcasting, Kinesis for streaming, and finally, Amazon MQ, the broker. Okay, let's dive right in. At its heart, AWS messaging is all about communication. Think about it. When you have all these different parts of an application, or maybe even totally separate applications, they need a solid, reliable way to talk to each other. And that's exactly where this suite of services comes into play. AWS basically gives you this powerful toolkit with specialized tools for different jobs. You know, whether you're queuing up tasks, sending out massive notifications, or processing huge streams of real-time data. So let's kick off our tour with one of the most foundational services in the entire AWS ecosystem, Amazon SQS, which stands for Simple Queue Service. So what is it really? The easiest way to think of SQS is like a super reliable post office for your applications. It's a managed queue where one part of your system can drop off a message, which is just a piece of work, and another part can come and pick it up later to process. Now, the magic word here is decoupling, and that matters because it means the part sending the work doesn't have to wait around. They can work independently, and honestly, that's the secret sauce for building really robust, scalable apps. And check out some of these features that make SQS so powerful. That decoupling we talked about, it's essential for being resilient. For instance, if your order processing service goes down, your order taking service can just keep adding orders to the queue, no lost business. SQS is also built to handle massive loads with pretty much unlimited throughput. It can hang on to messages for up to 14 days, and it guarantees at least once delivery. So you can sleep at night knowing your important messages aren't just going to disappear. You know, the journey of a message is actually pretty simple. First, a producer application sends a message into the queue. Sometime later, a consumer application comes along and asks the queue, "Hey, got any work for me?" It grabs the message, does its thing, and, this is key, once it's successfully done, it deletes the message. That way, nobody else accidentally does the same job twice. Now, this is where SQS gets really clever. We've got 2 crucial timing concepts here. First is the visibility timeout. Once a consumer grabs a message, SQS makes it invisible to everyone else for a little while, which prevents duplicate work. If the consumer doesn't delete it in time, maybe it crashed, the message reappears for someone else to try. Then you have delay time, which is different. That lets you send a message now that won't actually be available for anyone to pick up until sometime in the future. Pretty cool, right? And to make things even more efficient, SQS has this technique called long polling. So instead of your consumer constantly bugging the queue, got a message yet? How about now? Now, it can just open a connection and wait for a message to show up. This cuts down on a ton of empty requests, which actually saves you money. Of course, there are situations where the order of events is absolutely critical. Think about financial transactions or maybe inventory updates. For that, there's a special flavor of SQS called a FIFO queue for first in, first out. It guarantees that messages get processed in the exact sequence they were sent. Okay, so SQS is fantastic for that one-to-one communication. But what if your goal isn't to send a task to a single worker? What if you need to broadcast an event out to many different systems or users all at the same time? Well, that question is the perfect lead-in to our next service, which is basically the broadcaster of the AWS world, Amazon SNS, the simple notification service. SNS works on a publish-subscribe model, or pub/sub for short. Here's how it goes. You create a topic. Let's call it new user sign up, and then other services can subscribe to it. So maybe your analytics service wants to know about it, your email service needs to send a welcome message, and a fraud detection system needs to check the details. You just publish one single message to that new user sign up topic, and boom, SNS automatically broadcasts it to all those subscribers. It is incredibly efficient. Okay, now this is a really important point. When you're building an application that's listening to SNS, you absolutely have to design it to be idempotent. I know, it's a fancy word, but all it means is that your application can handle getting the same message more than once without messing things up. Because with a big distributed system like SNS, duplicates can sometimes happen. All right, so we've covered queuing up tasks and broadcasting messages, but what about when data isn't a single message, but a continuous, high-volume stream of information? For that, we turn to the Kinesis family. Yeah, Kinesis isn't just one thing. It's a whole suite of services designed for collecting, processing, and analyzing real-time data. We're talking about things like click streams from a website, data from thousands of IoT sensors, or constant flow of application logs.
So let's zoom in on a couple of key members here. This slide focuses on Kinesis Data Firehose, which you can think of as a delivery service. Its whole job is to take a massive incoming stream and reliably dump it into a data store, like Amazon S3 or a warehouse like Redshift. On the flip side, you have Kinesis Data Streams, which is all about real-time processing. It lets you build apps that can react to data the instant it arrives, for things like live gaming leaderboards or real-time fraud detection.
Now, let's talk about a really common challenge: moving applications that you already have over to the cloud. This brings us to our final service, Amazon MQ.
Amazon MQ is basically your migration specialist. See, if you have an existing application that already uses a traditional message broker, something like RabbitMQ or ActiveMQ, rewriting all that code to use a cloud-native service can be a huge pain. Amazon MQ totally solves this. It's a managed service that speaks the same language, supporting open protocols like AMQP and MQTT. This makes a lift and shift migration incredibly straightforward. No re-engineering necessary.
All right, we have covered a ton of ground. Let's just take a quick moment to wrap it all up and summarize our new AWS messaging toolkit. So, how do you pick the right tool for the job? Let's recap. Think of SQS as the backbone for your microservices. It's that reliable buffer that decouples everything. When you need to shout an event from the rooftops for anyone and everyone to hear, that's a job for SNS. For that fire hose of real-time data, Kinesis is your go-to for capturing and analyzing it on the fly. And finally, when you're just trying to bring an existing application into the AWS world, Amazon MQ is that welcoming bridge that makes the transition smooth. So, after going through this toolkit, which of these services could solve a problem you're working on right now? We really hope you found this explainer helpful, and hey, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into cloud technologies.